My name is Jack, and for 3 years, I thought I knew exactly who I was building a life with. Valentine came into my world like a storm in the best possible way. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party, one of those cramped apartment gatherings where everyone's squeezed onto a balcony with cheap wine and expensive dreams. She was laughing at something, head thrown back, completely unself-conscious. I was drawn to that freedom in her, that confidence. When our eyes met across the crowd, something just clicked. Our relationship grew quickly but steadily. Within 6 months, we'd moved in together. It felt right, natural even. She had this way of making our small 2-bedroom apartment feel like home. We'd plan our weeks together, coordinate our schedules, talk about the future like it was this tangible thing we were both reaching for. Valentine worked in corporate management for a mid-sized tech company. She was ambitious. I loved that about her. I worked as a project coordinator for a construction firm, stable, decent pay, nothing glamorous. But it gave us the foundation we needed. We talked about marriage, though we'd never officially gotten engaged. It was more of an understanding between us, a when rather than an if. We'd looked at rings once, casually, at a mall jewelry store. She'd pointed out what she liked, simple, elegant, nothing too flashy. I'd made mental notes, started putting away a bit of money each month. I imagined proposing on a trip we'd been planning to the coast. Something romantic but authentic, just us. Looking back now, I wonder if I was the only one still holding on to that vision. About 8 months before everything fell apart, Valentine's company announced a major restructuring. They were opening up a senior management position, director of operations. It was the kind of role that came with a corner office, a significant salary bump, and real decision-making power. The kind of position that could define a career. Valentine wanted it desperately. From that moment on, the position became the center of our lives. Valentine threw herself into preparing. She stayed late at the office most nights, working on proposals and strategy documents. When she was home, she was still working, laptop open on the dining table, papers spread across every surface, her phone constantly buzzing with work messages. I did everything I could to support her. I took over most of the household responsibilities without complaint. I cooked dinners she barely touched because she was too stressed to eat. I listened to her practice presentations over and over, offering feedback, helping her refine her talking points. I never imagined that while I was supporting her dream, she was already making choices that would destroy us. The position required multiple rounds of interviews and presentations to different levels of management. Valentine's immediate supervisor was a man named Richard Carlson. He was in his mid-40s, married with 2 children. I knew this because Valentine had mentioned his family in passing. Valentine had always spoken about Richard professionally. He was demanding but fair, she said. He had high standards but recognized good work. Nothing about the way she talked about him ever raised any red flags for me. Why would it? I trusted her completely. As the interview process progressed, Valentine's stress levels increased. She became more distant, more distracted. I was so focused on supporting her that I completely missed the signs that she was already building a different future, one that didn't include me as anything more than a convenient cover story. There were moments, though, small things that didn't quite add up, but that I dismissed because I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious, paranoid boyfriend. Like when she started being more protective of her phone, angling it away when texts came in. Or when she got a second phone, a work phone, she said, because the company wanted management candidates to be available 24/7 during the selection process. That made sense, so I didn't question it. Or the new lingerie that started appearing in her drawer. Expensive pieces, lacy and delicate, styles she'd never worn for me. When I commented on them, she said she was treating herself, buying things that made her feel confident and powerful. I respected that. I wanted her to feel good about herself. I never thought to doubt any of it because Valentine had never given me a reason not to trust her. I was in love with her. And when you love someone, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You trust them until they prove you shouldn't. I just never imagined how thoroughly she'd betray that trust. One afternoon, I got home earlier than usual because my workplace had a power outage. I wanted to surprise her with dinner. But when I walked into our apartment, it was empty. No big deal, I thought. She was probably still at work. I set the groceries on the kitchen counter, pulling out my phone to text her. Maybe we could coordinate, so I'd have dinner ready right when she got home. That's when I saw it. On the coffee table, screen facing up, was Valentine's work phone. She'd left it behind. That was unusual. She'd been practically attached to that phone for months, always within arm's reach, always checking it. As I stood there looking at it, the screen lit up. A message notification. I wasn't trying to snoop. I wasn't. The phone was just there, unlocked, and the message appeared right in front of me before I could even make a conscious decision to look or not look. Richard Carlson, tell your boyfriend you're working late. Same hotel as last time. Room 847. I read it 3 times. My brain seemed to short-circuit, trying to find an innocent explanation that would make those words mean something other than what they so obviously meant. Maybe it was a joke. Some kind of weird office humor I didn't understand. But even as I grasped for alternative explanations, my hands were already moving, picking up the phone, opening the message thread. What I found destroyed me. Months of messages. Dozens of them. Some were brief, times, places, room numbers. Others were more explicit, making it abundantly clear what was happening when my girlfriend claimed she was working late or attending strategy sessions. Richard, can't stop thinking about this afternoon. You're incredible. Valentine, same. When can we do this again? Richard, Friday. Tell Jack you have that conference in Boston. Valentine, already did. He believes everything I say. That last message was like a knife to the chest. The casual cruelty of it, the way she'd turned my trust into something stupid, something to be mocked. I scrolled further back. The messages started around 4 months ago, right around the time the position had been announced. This wasn't some sudden mistake, some moment of weakness. This had been calculated, sustained, deliberate. And clearly, it wasn't the first time they'd met at this hotel. My hands were shaking. I felt physically sick, like I might actually throw up right there in our living room. The home we'd built together suddenly felt foreign, contaminated by this knowledge. I could have confronted her when she got home. I could have waited, prepared what I wanted to say, maybe even given her a chance to explain. But I knew with absolute certainty, that if I did that, she'd lie. She'd spin some story, manipulate the situation, make me doubt what I'd seen with my own eyes. She was good at that, I realized now. Good at making people believe what she wanted them to believe. No. If I was going to face this, I needed to see it for myself. I needed proof that couldn't be talked away or explained into something else. I took screenshots of the messages, dozens of them, and sent them to my personal phone. Then I checked the most recent message again for the address. The Hamilton Hotel. Downtown. 20 minutes away in traffic. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. My mind raced through our entire relationship at high speed. Every moment, every memory, now tainted with suspicion. How long had this really been going on? Were there others before Richard? Had anything between us been real, or had I been a convenient cover story all along? The stable, trusting boyfriend at home while she pursued whatever she thought would advance her career. I thought about all those late nights I'd assumed she was actually working. The weekend she'd claimed to go to that conference in Boston. I'd even driven her to the train station, kissed her goodbye, told her I was proud of her. Had she laughed about that with him? Had they laughed together about how naive I was? The betrayal wasn't just about the cheating, though that alone was devastating enough. It was the premeditation, the sustained deception, the way she'd looked me in the eye every day and lied, the way she'd let me support her, encourage her, help her prepare for a promotion she was apparently sleeping her way toward. Everyone does this to get ahead, she'd said in those messages to someone, a friend, maybe, or a co-worker. I'd found that screenshot too. It's not ideal, but it's reality. Jack will understand eventually, or he won't need to know. Like my feelings were just a minor logistical problem to be managed. The Hamilton was one of those boutique hotels that corporate types used for out-of-town clients. Nice enough to be impressive, but not so expensive that it raised questions on expense reports. I approached the front desk. I'm actually meeting someone, I said, surprised by how normal my voice sounded. Room 847. Of course. The elevators are just around that corner. She gestured helpfully. 8th floor. The elevator ride to the 8th floor was interminable. The numbers climbed slowly, 3, 4, 5. Each floor another second to turn back, to choose ignorance over truth. But I didn't turn back. The 8th floor hallway was quiet. Room 847 was toward the end. I stood outside for a moment, listening. I could hear voices inside, low, indistinct, but clearly 2 people. I raised my hand to knock, then hesitated. What was I going to do exactly? Burst in and confront them? Make a scene in a hotel? As I stood there, paralyzed with indecision, I heard footsteps approaching the door from the inside. Laughter, Valentine's laugh, the one I knew so intimately, the one I'd loved hearing for 3 years. The door opened. I stepped back instinctively as the door swung open, positioning myself just out of the initial line of sight. Through the gap, I saw Richard Carlson first, tall, distinguished in that generic corporate way, wearing an expensive suit with his tie loosened. He was smiling at something Valentine had apparently just said, looking back into the room. Then came Valentine. She was adjusting her blouse as she stepped into the hallway, tucking it into her skirt with one hand while checking her phone with the other. Her hair was slightly mussed, makeup less perfect than when she'd left that morning. She looked relaxed, happy even, the stress that had been etched into her face for months completely absent. She looked the way she used to look with me, back when things were good between us. They took a few steps toward the elevator before Richard noticed me standing there. He stopped mid-sentence, his expression shifting from relaxed contentment to something like annoyance. Valentine followed his gaze and turned. Our eyes met. I watched the color drain from her face in real time. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her hand, still holding her phone, dropped to her side. For a brief moment, she looked like she might actually be sick. "Jack," she said, my name coming out as barely more than a whisper. "What are you? How did you?" I didn't say anything. I just looked at her, then at Richard, then back at her. I wanted to see if she'd even try to deny it, to spin some explanation for why she was walking out of a hotel room with her married boss in the middle of a workday, her clothes disheveled, both of them clearly having just. Richard cleared his throat, adjusting his tie with practiced composure. He shot Valentine a look I couldn't quite read. Irritation? Warning? "Valentine, I'll see you at the office tomorrow," he said with remarkable calmness, as if this were just a normal business meeting concluding. "We can finish our discussion then." Then he turned and walked toward the elevator, pressing the button without looking back at either of us. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement, just a swift exit, leaving Valentine to deal with the inconvenience of her personal life intersecting with their arrangement. "Jack, wait." Valentine stepped toward me, her hand reaching out. "Please just listen. It's not what you think." Something about that phrase, that utterly predictable, completely insufficient phrase, broke through my paralysis. "Not what I think." My voice came out quiet, controlled. I was surprised by that. I'd expected to yell, to explode. But instead I just felt hollow. "You were in a hotel room with your married boss in the middle of the day. Your clothes are a mess." He just walked away like I'm nothing but an inconvenience. "What exactly am I thinking that's wrong?" She flinched. "It's complicated. I read your messages, Valentine." I pulled my phone out, holding it up though I didn't actually open the screenshots. "On your work phone. The one you left at home. Tell your boyfriend you're working late. Same hotel as last time." That message was from him. Today. Her face went from pale to flushed. "You went through my phone? Don't." The word came out sharp. "Don't you dare try to make this about me invading your privacy. You left it on the coffee table, unlocked." The message appeared right there. And then I saw months of messages. Months, Valentine. She wrapped her arms around herself, looking down the hallway as if checking for witnesses to this disintegration of our life together. "Can we not do this here? Please? Can we go somewhere and talk?" "Talk about what?" "About how you've been fucking your boss while I made you dinner and helped you practice presentations. About how you've been lying to my face every day for months. About how you were using me as a cover story while you slept your way toward a promotion." "That's not," she stopped, swallowed hard. "It's not like that." "Then what's it like? Explain it to me. Make it make sense." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that was somehow worse than the guilt or shame I'd expected. I saw calculation. She was thinking about what to say, how to frame this, what explanation might work. She was still trying to manipulate the situation. "Jack, I care about you. I do. But this position, it's everything I've worked for. Everything I've wanted. And sometimes, in the corporate world, you have to make difficult choices. You have to do things that aren't ideal but that are necessary." I stared at her, genuinely stunned. "Necessary? You think cheating on me was necessary for your career?" "That's not what I mean." "Then what do you mean? Say it clearly. Tell me exactly what you're saying." She took a breath, seeming to choose her words carefully. "Richard has a lot of influence over who gets promoted. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just developed. And yes, maybe it's given me an advantage in the selection process, but that doesn't mean my work doesn't speak for itself. I've earned this position." "Earned it?" The words tasted bitter. "You've earned it. By sleeping with a married man. By betraying someone who loved you. by turning our entire relationship into a lie. You're being dramatic. Am I? I could feel the anger finally starting to break through the numbness. Let me ask you something, Valentine. Did you ever love me? Or was I always just the stable boyfriend at home, the supportive partner who'd make you look good while you did whatever you thought you needed to do to get ahead? Of course I loved you. I still. She trailed off, her certainty faltering. You still what? Love me? Is that why you've been sneaking around? Is that why you wrote in your messages that I believe everything? That I'm easy to fool? She winced at that. You weren't supposed to see those. No, I wasn't. I was supposed to keep being the ignorant boyfriend, supporting you, making your life comfortable while you fucked your way up the corporate ladder. Is that what you wanted? You're making this sound so cheap. It is cheap. My voice finally rose, echoing down the empty hallway. You sold us out. You sold yourself out. For what? A job title? A bigger salary? You traded something real for something that means nothing. It's not nothing to me, she said, her own voice hardening. You wouldn't understand. You're happy with your little project coordinator position, with being average. But I want more. I deserve more. And there it was. The truth beneath all the excuses and justifications. She looked down on me. On my career. On my choices. Maybe she always had. You're right, I said quietly. I wouldn't understand. Because I have something you apparently don't. Integrity. Self-respect. The ability to tell the difference between success and selling your soul. She opened her mouth to respond, but I held up my hand. I don't want to hear any more. We're done. I'll get my things out of the apartment this week. You can have it. You're probably going to need the space now that you've destroyed your relationship and quite possibly your career. What's that supposed to mean? I looked at her one last time. The woman I'd loved, the woman I'd planned a future with, now just a stranger in a hotel hallway. It means that Richard's wife deserves to know the truth about what her husband does on his business trips. Don't you think? Her eyes went wide. Jack, no, please. You can't. That would ruin everything. Everything? I repeated. Like you ruined everything we had? Why should I protect you from the consequences of your choices? Please. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. Please don't do this. We can work this out. I'll end it with Richard. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. Fix this? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Valentine, there's nothing to fix. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't one bad decision. This was months of calculated lies. You didn't just cheat on me, you used me. And the only reason you want to fix this now is because you got caught. That's not true. Yes, it is. If I hadn't found that phone, if I hadn't seen those messages, you'd still be lying to me right now. Tonight you'd come home late and tell me you were working, and I'd believe you because that's what I do. I trust people I love. But you don't deserve that trust. You never did. I turned to walk away, toward the elevator. Jack, wait. Her voice broke. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But please, please don't tell his wife. Think about his kids. Think about all the people this will hurt. I pressed the elevator button, not looking back at her. I am thinking about them, I said as the elevator doors opened. His wife deserves to know the kind of man she's married to. And his kids deserve better than parents who model this kind of behavior. Just like I deserved better than a partner who'd betray me for a promotion. I stepped into the elevator. Everyone does this. Valentine called out desperately. It's how the world works. I'm not the only one. The doors started to close, and I saw her standing there in that hallway, looking small and desperate and nothing like the woman I'd thought I knew. Maybe, I said quietly. But I'm not everyone. And neither are you, or at least, you didn't used to be. The elevator doors closed on her stricken face, and I was alone. I made it to my car before the tears started. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't face our apartment, our bed, all the artifacts of the life I'd thought we were building together. Instead, I drove to my older brother Mark's place across town. It was only after I'd told him everything, sitting at his kitchen table at midnight, working through my second beer, that the full weight of it hit me. 3 years. 3 years of my life invested in someone who'd been willing to throw it all away for career advancement. 3 years of love and trust and partnership, reduced to a convenient cover story for her affair. What are you going to do? Mark asked, his anger on my behalf barely contained. He'd always liked Valentine, had thought we were good together. Learning the truth had made him almost as furious as I was. I pulled out my phone, looking at the screenshots I'd taken. I'm going to make sure Richard's wife knows the truth. Mark nodded. She deserves to know. It took me another hour to actually do it. I knew once I sent those messages, there would be no going back. This wasn't just about ending my relationship with Valentine. It was going to blow up other people's lives too. Richard's wife, his kids, potentially his career. But then I thought about Valentine's words. Everyone does this to get ahead. No, not everyone. And the people who did shouldn't get away with it just because exposure would be uncomfortable. Richard's wife was named Patricia. I'd met her once, at a company holiday party Valentine had dragged me to about a year ago. She'd seemed nice, friendly, warm, clearly devoted to her family. I found her on social media. Her profiles were public, filled with family photos and inspirational quotes. There was a messaging function. I took a deep breath and started typing. Dear Patricia, you don't know me well, but we met briefly at your husband's company holiday party last year. My name is Jack, and I was in a relationship with Valentine Chase, who works with Richard. I'm sorry to contact you this way, and I'm sorry for what I'm about to tell you. I found out today that Richard and Valentine have been having an affair for at least 4 months. I have proof, text messages between them coordinating meetings at the Hamilton Hotel downtown, among other things. I'm not telling you this to hurt you or your family. I'm telling you because if I were in your position, I would want to know the truth. You deserve to make informed decisions about your marriage and your life. I've attached screenshots of some of their messages. I'm deeply sorry for the pain this will cause. Jack. I attached a dozen of the most damning screenshots, enough to make the truth undeniable, but not so many that it felt like I was piling on. Then I stared at the send button for a long moment. This would change everything. For Patricia. For Richard. For Valentine's career prospects. For everyone. But Valentine had changed everything first. She'd made these choices. She'd set all of this in motion. I hit send. Then I blocked Valentine's number and went to sleep on my brother's couch. The next few days were a controlled explosion. I took time off work, claiming a family emergency. I couldn't focus anyway. I spent the first day moving my things out of the apartment while Valentine was at work. I took only what was clearly mine, my clothes, my books, my laptop, the few pieces of furniture I'd brought into the relationship. I left my key on the kitchen counter. I didn't leave a note. What was there to say that hadn't already been said? I moved temporarily into Mark's spare room. It was small, barely more than an oversized closet with a window, but it was mine. Neutral space. Somewhere I could start figuring out who I was outside of the relationship that had defined my adult life. Valentine tried to contact me dozens of times. Calls, texts, even emails. I didn't respond to any of them. What was the point? Everything that needed to be said had been said in that hotel hallway. I deleted them all without fully reading them. The corporate fallout came faster than I expected. Patricia didn't just confront Richard. She contacted Valentine's company's HR department with the evidence I'd provided. The messages clearly showed a superior using his position to engage in an inappropriate relationship with someone he had direct influence over in a promotion decision. That was textbook sexual harassment from a corporate policy standpoint, even if Valentine had been a willing participant. The company launched an investigation immediately. I know this because they contacted me as part of it, asking me to provide a statement and share any evidence I had. I complied, turning over everything. I felt no guilt about it. Valentine and Richard had chosen to conduct their affair using company resources, company time, and in the context of a company promotion. They'd made it the company's business. Within 2 weeks, he was terminated for violation of company ethics policies and sexual harassment. The fact that Valentine had apparently been a willing participant didn't matter from the company's perspective. He was the superior, he held the power, and he'd abused it. Valentine didn't get fired, but she didn't get the promotion either. How could she? I heard through the grapevine that she'd been quietly transferred to a different department, a lateral move that essentially reset her career trajectory. She'd become toxic within the company, the subject of gossip and judgment. Everyone does this to get ahead, she'd said. Turns out, not everyone. And the ones who do pay for it eventually. Patricia filed for divorce within a month. I know because she sent me a message thanking me for telling her the truth. She said she'd suspected something was wrong for a while. You gave me proof when I needed it most, she wrote. Thank you for your courage in telling me. The first month after the breakup was brutal. I'd been with Valentine for 3 years. She'd been woven into every aspect of my life. Everything reminded me of her, and every reminder was now poisoned by what she'd done. The worst part was second-guessing everything. Had she ever really loved me? Were any of our moments genuine? Was our entire relationship just a convenient arrangement for her while she waited for something better to come along? Valentine taught me what I don't want in a partner. She taught me that ambition without ethics is just selfishness. She taught me that not everyone deserves your trust, no matter how much you love them. But she also taught me something more valuable. I'm stronger than I thought I was. Strong enough to face a painful truth. Strong enough to walk away from someone I loved when they proved they didn't deserve that love. Strong enough to rebuild myself from the ground up. If someone is willing to cheat to get something, they'll eventually cheat to keep it. Valentine proved that. And no title, no promotion, no relationship is worth sacrificing your self-respect. I walked away, and that was the real victory. Not revenge, not vindication, just the simple, difficult act of choosing myself when someone else had chosen to discard me. I'm still healing, but I'm healing on my own terms, with my dignity intact. And that's worth more than anything Valentine was chasing. Thank you for watching the video to the end. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. A playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to is now displayed on the screen. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.